Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing on with Codominance by CurlyStar09, and I'm going to be reading chapters 21 and 22. Chapter 21, Hero Commission Meeting. Kirishima yawned awake at his alarm, reaching over to turn it off before moving closer to Bakugou as he tried to go back to sleep. He didn't want to move, he didn't want to think. He just wanted to stay right here where he was, feeling the way Bakugou's chest lifted and fell with every breath. He wished there was a way for them to be able to stay like that for the whole day. Maybe bring Akio to join them once he woke up so he wasn't on his own. Or he could get up and make his partner some breakfast in bed. He was considering both options when Bakugou stirred as he woke. Kirishima didn't hesitate to lean over to kiss Bakugou's cheek before whispering, "Good morning, sweetheart." "Morning." Bakugou gave him the smallest smile before lamenting, "Too bad I need to go to work today." "We have a couple more minutes to pretend we don't," Kirishima offered, leaning towards Bakugou. Bakugou smirked playfully before leaning in as well. Their lips met ever so softly. They lingered on each other's lips with no urgency or rush, just enjoying the warm feeling of their lips against one another. Kirishima moved one of his hands to cup Bakugou's face, making sure he didn't pull away too soon. But if he was honest, he would never be satisfied. He could never get enough of Bakugou Katsuki. "We still need to talk," Bakugou mumbled against Kirishima's lips. Kirishima let out a sigh. "Yeah, we do." Bakugou sat up, causing Kirishima to let out a groan. "Come on, babe," Bakugou said, nudging Kirishima on the shoulder. "You making pancakes?" Kirishima tried his luck with as much of an innocent smile as he could muster. "Fine, but you grab Akio," Bakugou said with an eye roll before he leaned down to kiss Kirishima. "Deal." Kirishima grinned. Kirishima stood up in record time, kissing Bakugou's cheek before pulling on a shirt and following Bakugou out of the room. He was tempted to wrap his arms around Bakugou's waist and pull him back towards him, but part of him knew that would just earn him another explosion in the face in less than 12 hours. He watched Bakugou head towards the kitchen before he headed to the nursery. He opened the door slowly, peeking in slightly, and realized he had had perfect timing as he heard Akio starting to whimper in his crib. "Good morning, little pebble," he greeted as he stepped into the room with a bright smile. Akio's face lit at the sight of him, letting out a shriek of excitement as he reached over and stood up on his crib to demand to get picked up. "Dad!" he exclaimed before letting out another shriek, stomping his feet against the crib in excitement. "Good to see you too," Kirishima told him, trying to match his excitement before picking him up. Akio wasted no time, his hands going to Kirishima's face as he started babbling. Kirishima kissed his little hands before kissing those chubby cheeks he adored. "Missed you too, Akio," he told him. "Now let's change your diapers so we can go eat breakfast with your dad." Time passes. Bakugou was getting everything ready to make breakfast. There was a spread of ingredients on the counter already when he heard someone approaching. "That was fast, eh?" he said, a smile pulling on his lips, but it quickly turned into a frown when he saw Sero. "You guys have got to remember you have other people over," Sero said with a small scuff, running a hand through his hair with a yawn. "What are you still doing here, tape face?" Bakugou groaned, glaring at Sero before turning back to what he had been doing. "I was about to tell you that I was heading out, but it seems like there's going to be breakfast?" Sero grinned. Bakugou frowned slightly. "Fine, sit down, fucker." "Damn, that actually worked?" Sero exclaimed, the disbelief clear in his voice. "Do you want food or not?" Bakugou huffed, turning back towards the annoyance of the day. Maybe next time, Blasty, Sero told him with a shrug. I was just joking. I need to meet up with Mina for brunch. She would kill me if I showed up already full, and if I eat breakfast here without her. Or if she found out about her jacket, Bakugo added with a knowing look. Sero blinked twice. He told you, didn't he? He did, Bakugo confirmed. Truce? Sero offered with a nervous smile. Bakugo took a moment as if he was considering the offer. He needed to make Sero sweat before responding. Truce. Sero let out a sigh of relief. All right, I'm going to say bye to Kiri and Akio, and after that I'll head out. Let you guys be disgustingly domestic. Sounds good. Bakugo agreed, but rolled his eyes at the comment. Let me know about the mission, Sero told him before turning away, right as Kirishima walked into the kitchen with Akio in his arms. Just who I was looking for, Sero exclaimed as he saw them. You leaving, bro? Kirishima asked. Yeah, I need to go meet up with mi amor, and I like you guys, but I would rather be with her, so... he said with a shrug and a bright smile. All right, we'll see you later, Kirishima told him. Let me say goodbye to my little bro, Sero said, reaching over for Akio. Akio turned away from Sero, burying his face against Kirishima's neck with a small whine of protest. Seemed as if the little one didn't want to leave his dad anytime soon. Guess that's a no, Bakugo snorted. I thought we had bonded, Sero groaned with a pout. To think that I played blocks with you. Maybe next time, Kirishima answered with a laugh. Time passes. Okay, talk, Bakugo said as he sat next to Kirishima at the table. Their breakfast was almost finished in front of them while Akio played with his already empty bottle. Kirishima let out a sigh as he ran a hand through his hair. They had a bit more than an hour before Bakugo had to go to work. He didn't have a set time for his meeting with the Hero Commission, but he knew he had to be there early. Sato lied to us. It's that simple, Kirishima finally settled on. What is that supposed to mean? Bakugo frowned. I don't have all the details yet. They want me to go in today to finish filing a formal complaint against her. All I know is that she was supposed to be helping us, not threatening us. He watched Bakugo carefully as he talked, but his partner was just waiting for him to continue. She didn't even have the authority to send me on a mission on such short notice, let alone one that had been active for months already. Kirishima kept explaining. He didn't have a lot of information, but he had enough, and today he would get the rest to make sure no one tried to separate them again. Bakugo seemed so quiet as he listened. It made him nervous because he didn't know what the blonde was thinking, which was rare between them. Once he was done, he waited patiently for Bakugo to say something. Anything. Bakugo let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair before finally speaking. I'll go with you to HC. Katsuki, you don't have to, but I fucking want to, he said. I'm not going to let you go alone after learning all of that. Besides, this involves me too. Kirishima's eyes dropped to the table. He knew Bakugo was right, but it still made him worry. It was better if only one of them was going to the lair of the beast, after all. How could they both risk it? Part of him was still worried that it was all a trap or trying to entangle them in something that would put them into debt with the Hero Commission. Stop thinking so hard. You aren't going alone, and that's final. Bakugo told him. One of his hands found its way to Kirishima's cheek. Kirishima couldn't help but chuckle. Fine, but I'm still worried. And we're going to be late if you don't start getting ready now, Bakugo said with a smirk, leaning towards Kirishima to give him a quick kiss. So get a move on. Yes, sir, Kirishima told him before giving his partner another kiss. I'll get Akio ready while I'm at it. Thanks, Bakugo told him with a smile. I love you cats, more than anything, Kirishima said, wanting nothing more than for Bakugo to believe those words. I love you too, Bakugo assured him, more than I can describe. Time passes. Leaving Akio at daycare had gone a bit better. He didn't cry as much as the first day, but he still cried. Bakugou let out a sigh as the door closed behind them and they walked out of the daycare. The muffled cries of their son were still audible. "That breaks my heart," Kirishima whispered. "You sure he can't come with us?" Bakugou shook his head. "He's safer here, you know that." Kirishima was quiet for a bit before agreeing. "Okay, fine. So we're heading to your agency first?" "Yeah, need to make sure no one's fucking anything up before we head over to HC," Bakugou explained. He already knew that he would probably need to sign a couple of forms before he left, and probably have to move his patrol for a couple hours, but he should still be able to make it back in time. He had to submit some paperwork to the Hero Commission as well, so he may as well take advantage of the trip down there, maybe even speed up the process of getting Sero approved for the mission. They arrived at the Dynamite Agency in no time, and just like the day before, it didn't take more than a couple of steps for Bakugou to be surrounded, but for a very different reason. Everyone seemed to be eyeing Kirishima before turning back to Bakugou, asking if he needed anything. Fucking gossips just wanted to know why Red Riot was in the building. "Oi!" He yelled at all of them, his voice echoing against the walls, and the lobby went quiet. "Same fucking plan as yesterday. If you need shit done, I'll get to it. Don't fucking crowd me. Also, if I see any of you idiots trying to sneak up to my office because my partner is here and you have nothing to say to me, you will be stuck with disaster cleanup duty for the rest of the year. Got it?" His words resonated around the space for a while, and then everyone started moving once more and away from them. Bakugou couldn't help but roll his eyes. He knew he employed the best staff, but that didn't mean they weren't fucking morons. "What are you planning to do to me in your office?" Kirishima asked suddenly, his voice a low whisper against Bakugou's ear teasingly, a hand on the small of Bakugou's back. "Don't do that." Bakugou shoved him away, but he couldn't hide how red his face was. "Telling people to not come look for you," Kirishima continued with a short hum. "That sounds like we are up to something." Kirishima wrapped an arm around Bakugou, with a teasing smile this time, pulling the blonde towards him with a mischievous look in his eyes. Bakugou pushed Kirishima away more forcefully with a groan, ignoring the shiver down his spine. They really didn't have time for this. "Stop, we have shit to do." They made their way to Bakugou's office, the blonde trying to make sure there was distance between them. Once there, he started going through a stack of papers right away, partly as a distraction before Kirishima could start messing around with him again. "Let me just finish this and we can head out to the Hero Commission," Bakugou told Kirishima, who was leaning against the office's door frame. "Sure thing, sweetheart," he said as he looked around. "This place looks a lot busier than I remember." "It's grown a lot this last year, so," Bakugou explained without really looking up from his paperwork. "I'm proud of you," Kirishima said without hesitation. "Where did that come from?" Bakugou questioned, looking up at Kirishima then with a raised eyebrow. "Well, it's true," Kirishima said with a shrug. "You built this up all on your own." Bakugou couldn't say anything else, his eyes falling to the papers he was supposed to be looking at. He wanted to tell Kirishima to join him, as he offered him to do so many years ago. He wanted to tell him that it could have been both of them building up the agency together, but it seemed like something they needed to discuss when they had more time. Maybe someday. Time passes. Bakugou and Kirishima were heading out of the agency in no time. A backpack swung over his shoulder. Bakugou let his assistant know that he was heading to the Hero Commission before leading the way out of the agency. They wasted no time heading over. Kirishima could feel himself growing anxious as they got closer to HC. They never gave him a meeting time, but he knew he had to ask the complaint department. He hoped they wouldn't mind that Bakugou came along with him, and if they did, they would have to deal with him. They needed to get to the bottom of this together. They walked in together, and without hesitation, they were led to one of the meeting rooms on the first floor. It didn't take long for a group of 4 people to come in after them, every single one of them in a dark suit. "Red Riot, Dynamite, thank you for coming on such short notice," one of them greeted them. A plain-looking man with black hair and brown eyes who seemed to be the one in charge since the others didn't move until he gestured for them to go ahead and sit. Bakugou was sitting on the opposite side from whoever the man was, and Kirishima stood next to him. He was too anxious to sit, and he felt like he needed to be ready for anything. "What the hell is all this about?" Bakugou grumbled as he crossed his arms. "This is a meeting about the two of you being mistreated by a Hero Commission employee that went against orders," the man said, not wasting any time, not even introducing himself, which was odd. All Hero Commission employees had to identify themselves right away, which meant he wasn't just an employee. "That's funny, because she told us she was doing what she was ordered to do." Bakugou spat back without missing a beat. "Those were lies, and we are investigating more into it," he explained. "The last thing we would want to do is alienate ourselves from some of the top heroes in Japan. This is not the same Hero Commission a lot of people remember. It's about partnership with heroes, not control." "Then why did it take so long for anyone to find out what was going on with Sato?" Kirishima demanded. The man let out a sigh before leaning forward, his elbows on the table. "I will not lie to you. There was an oversight. Sato was in charge of her own task force, and the reports they submitted omitted a lot of what actually happened. This, of course, is no excuse." "Then what are we doing here?" Bakugou demanded. There was a silence as the man looked at the others with them before turning back to them with a sigh. "There's a lot here that needs to be handled. More than anything, we need to make sure that it is handled properly, and most of it requires your approval so that we can proceed." "What exactly do you need our approval for?" Bakugou asked. "Sato used her quirk on you without consent, correct?" The question came from one of the others who hadn't spoken yet, his eyes right on Kirishima. Yeah, she did," Kirishima confirmed with a nod. "I thought I had already talked about that with someone." "Yes, we are aware now," the first man jumped in, "which is why Sato will be arrested. She does not have a hero license or any type of clearance to use her quirk on others." Kirishima felt his blood run cold. He thought the people that worked under the Hero Commission all had hero license or special permits to use their quirks. That's why he had never even thought about reporting Sato for using her quirk on him. Apart from the fact that he thought she was under direct orders from the HC. "What the fuck?" Bakugou said slowly. "Please calm down, Dynamite. I reassure you, it is already being taken care of." "How?" Bakugou demanded. "She is being charged to the full extent of the law. Some of the people on her team already talked to us, in exchange for some leniency due to complicity. She also has other charges against her, but those will be dealt with internally. As Red Riot was told, we need to finish the formal complaint, and we have a few others to add to it." Time passes. The meeting went longer than they had expected, nothing but formalities and apologies from the Hero Commission. They were offered any and all support they would need during their mission, even going as far as increasing the number of heroes allowed to join the mission. Bakugou couldn't push away the feeling that they were just trying to avoid a scandal. At least everyone that had been pending clearance had been approved. If other heroes found out what had happened to them, the HC would have a lot of people questioning if they were to be trusted. There would be some uproar and a lot of calls for reform in the system if word got out. Bakugou would have been leading the uproar if he didn't know that it would only delay everything else going on. A couple of hours later, they were escorted out of the room with promises of an update soon. As they walked out, they could spot Sato in the distance talking to someone, face cool and collected, but Bakugou saw the way her eyes narrowed at them as they walked out. He took a sharp breath, his hand wrapping around Kirishima's to steady himself, stopping himself from walking over and punching that bitch in the face. Kirishima seemed to understand what Bakugou was thinking, if only because he wanted to do the same, his hand tightening as he pulled his partner after him. "Let's get out of here," Kirishima said, and Bakugou couldn't agree more. They made it back to the car before either of them could breathe normally again. Kirishima wasted no time leaning over to kiss Bakugou's cheek, then his jaw, and finally his lips. The kiss was soft, reassuring, and more importantly, full of relief. Bakugou wasted no time returning the kiss with just as much need. "It's over?" Kirishima questioned once they pulled apart, unsure if what they had just experienced actually happened. "Yeah, for the most part," Bakugou said as he leaned his forehead against his partner's. "We got all the approvals that we needed to move forward as well. We can finally start hunting those bastards." Kirishima nodded against him, a small smile pulling at his lips. "Would you be mad if I suggested that we called in for the rest of the day? We could go pick up Akio, spend the rest of the day at home, just the three of us." "Yeah, I would," Bakugou told him before pulling away. "We have a lot to do, eh? I need to get back to work, and you need to go report to Fandom. Not only that, but now we can start moving forward on the mission and have a solid plan of action." Kirishima let out a sigh. "I know. I just don't want to be away from you right now." Bakugou blinked but didn't waste any time closing the distance between them once more for another kiss. "Promise, we'll get to spend time together tomorrow. We are both off after all, right?" Kirishima perked up at the comment. "Yeah, we can go out and do something together. Maybe the aquarium? I think Akio would love it." Kirishima continued talking, excited about the plans he was making. Bakugou couldn't help but smile as he watched. An idea started forming. They needed some time for just the two of them, after all. Chapter 22, Aquarium. Bakugou woke to Akio's giggles. He opened his eyes to find Kirishima hushing the baby. "You'll wake your dad," Kirishima warned, but he let out a soft chuckle as he gave Akio one of his toys. They were sitting on the bed as Kirishima tried to entertain the gremlin in order to let him sleep. Bakugou couldn't help the happiness that washed over him at what he had awoken to. This was his life, and it was perfect in a way he could have never imagined. Bakugou couldn't help but smile as he reached over to take one of Kirishima's hands in his own. "Morning," he said as he squeezed Kirishima's hand. "I thought you were asleep," he said with a small smile, leaning over to kiss Bakugou's temple. "I was," Bakugou told him as he let out a yawn before sitting up. "What are you two doing?" Akio turned to look at Bakugou with a bright smile as he showed his dad a toy block that he had in his hand as he was surrounded by many others. "Dah!" "That's my gremlin," Bakugou told him as he leaned over to kiss the chubby cheek, earning himself a giggle. "Where's my kiss?" Kirishima demanded with a dramatic huff. Bakugou rolled his eyes, unable to stop smiling as he pulled his partner towards him until their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss. "You're lucky I like you so much," Bakugou told him as he pulled away, and if his hand lingered around Kirishima's neck, well, the redhead didn't mind. Kirishima just grinned. "Aw, that's almost nice." "Shut up," Bakugou told him with an eye roll, but he couldn't stop smiling long enough to make it believable. "Make me," Kirishima told him before leaning in to claim another kiss and then another. "Love you," Bakugou whispered once they pulled away. His hand found its way to Kirishima's hair, running it through slightly tangled hair. "Love you too, sweetheart," Kirishima told him as he kissed Bakugou's nose. It took them a couple more minutes for either of them to move away and a couple more in order for them to get their day started. Akio seemed to be the only one awake enough to want to do anything, so the first thing they needed to do was get some coffee brewing. It wasn't long before the three of them were in the kitchen. Kirishima fed Riot and Al, while Bakugou started on breakfast, a speaker playing soft music to fill the room. "Hey?" Bakugou started suddenly. "Yeah?" Kirishima answered without hesitation. "I know you want to take Akio to the aquarium today and wanted to spend time with us together as a family, but I was wondering, would you go on a date with me tonight?" Bakugou asked, his eyes fixed on the pan he was holding a bit too tightly. Maybe the idea was stupid. Maybe this was a stupid idea. Why the fuck had he even? He felt his partner's arms wrapping around his waist and then felt a kiss against his cheek. "That sounds amazing, babe." Kirishima smiled. "Yeah?" Bakugou questioned, feeling himself blush slightly. Yeah, I think we can't keep pushing that off. It's too important, Kirishima told him with a hum against Bakugou's ear. That's for damn sure, Bakugou chuckled. Language, Kirishima said, but his tone was joking, so the blonde just rolled his eyes. We can go to the aquarium in the morning, and the evening can be just the two of us, Kirishima said with an excited smile. Bakugou couldn't help but turn around in his partner's arms in order to kiss him, before saying with a mischievous grin, Good, because I have plans for tonight. Kirishima raised an eyebrow. Oh, really now? Yes, Bakugou couldn't help but lean into his partner. Lots of plans. Time passes. Getting ready for an outing was a lot more work than Kirishima had expected. They had taken turns showering while Akio showered with him. Bakugou packed the diaper bag while Kirishima folded up the stroller into the trunk of his car. Akio seemed to just stare at them, half curious about what they seemed to be doing, but more interested in whatever toy was in front of him. Got everything we need, sweetheart? Kirishima asked as he picked up Akio from his playpen. Yeah, we're ready to go, Bakugou tells him as he walks over to them. Oh, wait, we're forgetting something. Kirishima gasped suddenly. What? Bakugou questions, and Kirishima can see the way his partner is trying to go over their list of necessities, his eyebrows knitting together, a slight frown on his face as he tried to figure out what they were missing. This, Kirishima whispered as he leaned in close and kissed Bakugou. Now we can go, he says as he pulls away with a grin before heading to the front door. How? Bakugou responded, face flushed. Kirishima couldn't help but laugh as he made his way out to the car, Bakugou grumbling behind him. What time does the aquarium open anyway? Bakugou asked as he threw the diaper bag into the back seat as Kirishima buckled Akio into his car seat. They open at 9, so we should get there right before they open, Kirishima told him. Bakugou paused. Should we be doing this, with everything going on? Are we putting Akio at risk by taking him out like this? Hey, Kirishima whispered as he went over to Bakugou. Katsuki, look at me. He placed a hand on Bakugou's cheek, making him turn to look at him. You've said it yourself. We can't keep him locked up in the house. I know, but there's just... Bakugou stopped suddenly, letting out a frustrated groan. Hey, if anyone tries anything, they have to go through us, right? Kirishima tried to reassure him with a smile, but he couldn't help but feel a bit of fear himself. Was it normal to be so paranoid when you had a kid, or were they just overprotective due to their situation? It was honestly hard to tell. Bakugou nodded before leaning in to kiss Kirishima's cheek. You're right, no one can take us. Kirishima grinned. Let's get going then. Time passes. The aquarium was almost empty when they arrived. It was way too early on a Sunday for people to be around just yet. Bakugou was relieved at the lack of people as he held Akio and waited for Kirishima to fetch the stroller. Do you want to see all the fish? He asked the gremlin, who seemed to be looking around with a bit of caution, but clear curiosity in his eyes. The aquarium had banners set up outside displaying some of the most popular exhibits. He's going to be so excited. Kirishima was practically bouncing. Bakugou chuckled, knowing exactly who was the excited one. All right, gremlin, you go into the stroller now, Bakugou said as he sat Akio into the stroller and strapped him in. All right, ready? Kirishima said, extending a hand towards Bakugou. Bakugou smiled as he took Kirishima's hand and squeezed it tightly to signal that he was ready to go. Kirishima grinned at him as he pushed the stroller with one hand, refusing to let go as they walked. The only sound was Akio's babble as they headed to the ticket box by the front door. It didn't take them long to get tickets, and even though the person behind the counter seemed to have recognized them, Bakugou was glad they hadn't said anything, letting out a sigh of relief as they made their way inside without incident. They had to leave the stroller by the entrance, so Kirishima picked up Akio while Bakugou pulled out the carrier. He strapped it around his chest, and Kirishima helped him position Akio. You know, we could have done this in the car, Bakugou commented. Where is the challenge in that? Kirishima laughed as he ruffled Akio's hair before kissing Bakugou's cheek. Let's go see some fish, Bakugou told him, but he couldn't hide the smile as he took Kirishima's hand to pull him along. As soon as they walked into the fish aquarium exhibit, Akio's eyes opened wide. The walls had many window fish-sized tanks that had different types of fish swimming around. They made their way to the closest one, and Akio started kicking and giggling as he watched the fish swim by, reaching out to try to touch the glass as the colorful fish swam by. Sorry, Pebble, you can't touch the glass here, Kirishima told him, giving Akio his hand instead. Akio grabbed onto Kirishima's fingers, immediately letting out a shriek as he took his dad's hand in excitement and kicked his feet. He seems to like it. Bakugou chuckled. Who doesn't like aquariums? Kirishima said in reply, a bright smile as his eyes met Bakugou's. Bakugou couldn't help but see the boy he fell in love with all those years ago. They had gone to the aquarium together back then, during their 3rd year, with most of their class using the excuse of it being a bonding experience to justify the trip. He had spent the whole time wishing he could just hold Kirishima's hand to be able to lean over and kiss him. Now he could, so he couldn't stop himself. He leaned over, kissing Kirishima's cheek quickly, and then a quick kiss on his lips. What was that for? Kirishima asked with a soft smile. No reason, Bakugou responded with a small shrug before walking towards the next tank. Time passes. Everything seemed to be going well. They made it to the largest tank before they were recognized, or more like before someone decided to approach them. They had been standing in front of the large tank, Akio in Kirishima's arms babbling away as he pointed at some bigger fish swimming by. Bakugou explained what each one was and pointed out the ones coming close to them. They had to have been standing there for a good 10 minutes before they heard a voice behind them. Hello, Mr. Riot? Mr. Dynamite? A shy voice said. They turned to see 2 kids no older than 8 and 6 years old looking up at them with wide eyes. The youngest of the 2, a girl wearing a Red Riot t-shirt, was hiding behind the older boy in front of her. She had a hand holding onto his shirt tightly, but her eyes were focused on the heroes in front of them. Hey there, Kirishima told them with a smile. Sorry to bother you, the boy said. This is my sister. She's a big fan and wanted to say hi. The boy said, his voice sounding nervous, but determined to do this for his sister. His hands and fists at his sides were shaking from nerves. Bakugou took Akio from Kirishima before nudging him forward slightly. Go talk to your fans. Kirishima smiled at Bakugou before kneeling down to be at eye level with the kids, or at least as much as he could. What are your names? Kirishima asked them with a smile. I'm Yamato, and this is Risa, the boy responded, sounding a bit more confident now that Red Riot was talking to them so openly. You're my favorite, Risa said quietly, eyes wide, still holding on to her brother's shirt. Thank you for the support, Kirishima told her as he bumped his fists against each other, and she smiled widely. Always happy to meet some manly and awesome fans. His favorite is Dynamite, she exclaimed, a wide smile as she pointed at her brother, who turned at her wide-eyed. What? You do? Risa, the boy exclaimed. Ha! Looks like you have a fan here too, Blasty, Kirishima said, turning with a grin to look at Bakugou. Seems like I do, Red. Bakugou chuckled. Nice to meet you, kid. You're a good brother, he added, noticing how the boy seemed to freeze up, just staring at Bakugou now. The little girl started to bounce in place as she pulled at her brother, who was still looking at Bakugou with his mouth slightly opened. Told you they would be nice, she exclaimed. Then why didn't you want to come up to them on your own? Yamato huffed. Risa just shrugged before turning back to the 2 heroes in front of them. Are you guys here to catch some villains? She asked, her eyes looking around as if trying to find someone suspicious looking. No, we're just here for fun, Kirishima told her. Brought our son to see some of the fish, He pointed at Akio, who was looking over Bakugo's shoulder at the tank they had been viewing before they got approached. Yamato nodded before he said, trying to sound mature, I heard you had a baby. My mom said that you have to say congratulations when someone has a baby.
Thank you. It means a lot,
Bakugo told him, trying not to chuckle at how straight-faced Yamato was trying to be. He turned Akio around so he could see the kids more clearly. Can he come play with us at the tide pool petting zoo? Risa asked with a gasp. I think he's too little for that, Kirishima told her with a smile. You might be right, she responded with a smile. Maybe next time. Thank you for saying hi to us, though, Kirishima told them. You're welcome. Thank you, Yamato said as he started walking away, while waving, pulling his sister along, Risa already talking loudly about how she got to meet Red Riot and Dynamite.
Cute kids,
Bakugo commented once they were out of earshot. With great taste in heroes. Kirishima chuckled.
Oh, that's a given.
Bakugo laughed then as he adjusted Akio in his arms.
Good to know there are people already offering to play with you, Gremlin.
They didn't ask for an autograph, though, Kirishima pointed out.
Yamato seemed like he had enough to deal with to think about it.
Bakugo commented with a small laugh and a shake of his head. Kirishima chuckled before reaching out to Akio. Give me my kid back now. Bakugo rolled his eyes but handed Akio over, who went happily.
Let me guess, the sharks are next.
The sharks are next! Time passes. Bakugo would have never imagined that a gift shop would result in so much of a struggle. Akio and Kirishima spent so much time staring at the sharks that Bakugo had to drag his partner away by the collar of his shirt, mumbling about how it was almost lunchtime and reminding him that they had plans for the evening. Honestly, it was mostly on Kirishima. Akio had no fault in that. Now he stood in the gift shop, glaring at Kirishima, who was holding not one, but 3 shark plushies.
He doesn't need those,
Bakugo told him with a groan as he adjusted Akio slightly in his arms. But look, sweetheart, they're us, Kirishima exclaimed, shaking the sharks to punctuate his words. Bakugo let out a sigh. The aquarium had all types of toys and knickknacks, even a line of hero-themed plushies. Kirishima had managed to find the Red Riot and Dynamite sharks and a smaller regular gray shark to represent Akio.
He has enough toys,
Bakugo reminded him. He doesn't have these, Kirishima argued back. They could be used as decor for his room.
Kirishima Eijirou, do not give me those puppy dog eyes of yours,
Bakugo shouted in a harsh whisper at him. Why? Are they working? Kirishima grinned as he got closer to Bakugo.
No,
Bakugo lied, looking away.
Besides, are you really going to make our kid obsessed with sharks?
I don't see anything wrong with it. Sharks are manly, Kirishima said. So, please? Bakugo let out a groan.
You know what? Fine, get them. But you aren't allowed to buy him any more toys for the rest of the month.
Deal, Kirishima said before leaning over and giving Bakugo a quick kiss. Now, I'm going to buy these. I'll be right back.
You're such a dork.
Bakugo couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, but I'm your dork, so ha, Kirishima said as he walked towards the cashier with a quick wink at Bakugo. Bakugo rolled his eyes before turning to Akio, who was rubbing his eyes. He hadn't taken his nap, and it was starting to weigh on his little eyes.
Your dad is ridiculous,
Bakugo told him as he brushed Akio's hair away from his face.
We'll get going soon, promise,
he added before kissing Akio's cheek. Akio leaned back against him, hiding his face against Bakugo's neck before letting out a small whine.
I know,
Bakugo tells him as he rubs Akio's back.
Almost out of here, Akio.
Kirishima didn't take long coming back with the plushies in a bag and smiling brightly. Shall we go?
Yeah, Akio is beyond tired,
Bakugo said as he started walking with Kirishima right behind him. I'll grab the stroller, Kirishima told him as they neared the exit.
Are we going out for lunch?
Bakugo asked as he waited for Kirishima a couple steps away. We could grab something on the way home so Akio isn't sleeping in the middle of a restaurant, Kirishima suggested.
That sounds like a plan, babe.
Bakugo agreed. With the stroller with them once more, they headed out the door. I think he had fun, Kirishima said as they got to the car.
I think so too. We should bring him back when he's a little older,
Bakugo commented. As if I'm not bringing him here as often as possible, the redhead chuckled.
I swear, both of you will end up turning into fish,
Bakugo groaned. Would you love me if I turned into a fish, Cats? Kirishima asked with a dramatic pout.
I'll think about it,
Bakugo told him, laughing at Kirishima's offended expression at his response. Time passes. Going home for lunch turned out to be the best plan after all. There was a certain relief that washed over them after walking into their home. Akio fast asleep in Kirishima's arms as Bakugo carried their food inside. They were greeted by a very excited Riot who followed Kirishima to Akio's room. Kirishima couldn't help but smile when Riot refused to leave the nursery, laying down by the crib instead. Kirishima didn't fight him after that, just took the baby monitor with him to the kitchen. Riot is watching over Akio, he told Bakugo as he joined him at the table, making sure to kiss his partner first. You think Akio will be all right tonight? Kirishima asked after a couple seconds while they set up their food.
Don't worry, I got him the best babysitter available,
Bakugo reassured him. So, none of our friends, Kirishima stated with a small laugh.
Exactly.
Bakugo grinned. Can I know who? Kirishima questioned, mostly out of amusement. He trusted Bakugo completely on the subject.
Eri said she is available,
Bakugo told him with a shrug.
Aizawa was going to be there, but he made it clear that it was Eri's job.
Awesome! Akio is going to have fun, the redhead commented, pausing slightly before adding, What are we going to be doing?
Wouldn't you like to fucking know?
Bakugo smirked before taking a bite of his food. Aw, come on, sweetheart, Kirishima pouted.
Nah, you get shit,
Bakugo told him. Not even what I'm supposed to wear? Kirishima questioned him with a raised eyebrow.
Just make sure you wear a suit,
Bakugo told him. Kirishima smiled, leaning over to kiss his partner. Can't wait. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me for these 2 chapters. I hope that you will consider coming back and joining me in the next video where we're going to read chapters 23 and 24. See you next time.